I've been a doctor for about 30 years, and I've been in preventive medicine about 23 of those years. If you had asked me 23 years ago what is longevity medicine, I wouldn't even have known. In fact, I only knew about longevity medicine the past few years, and that was by accident, because someone wanted me to help set up a longevity clinic, and I helped set it up. When I delved into it, it's actually preventive medicine, but in a more focused, granular manner. I think the past few years after COVID, people were more interested in their health. They wanted not to get ill. They wanted to prevent disease. There's also an awareness of increase in chronic illnesses, right? So people want to prevent this from happening. I think it's also social media itself. Okay, there are a lot of topics out there, videos, blog posts, and people are beginning to be aware of these, and including the so-called health influencers such as Peter Attia, David Heyman, right? And of course, a person called Brian Johnson, right? And so people follow them. They want to be healthy. They want to emulate and copy what these health influencers say and do. So from my perspective, from my practice, I see 4 different groups of people. I see the 20 to 30 odd year olds who want to stay fit, look good, perform as well as they can. I see the 30 to 40 odd year olds who have started to have families, responsibilities, and are more aware of themselves, and their health. And they still want focus on their what they look like, how they feel, but also have concerns about starting a family, starting careers, and things like that. 40 to 50s, that's when they get slightly more, I would say, fatigued, right? Cognition is starting to fail them, stress, sleep, other responsibilities. And then 50 to 60s is when the chronic disease. But Henning, what do you see out there?
Thank you, Dr. Hisham, and I agree. For all of these reasons you just mentioned, it's nearly a perfect storm. The one thing that you haven't mentioned yet, which contributes to it as well, is research and dedicated doctors and passionate doctors who do understand or who argue nowadays that is aging a disease? And I think that thought process opens up a lot of possibilities in combination with the awareness, in combination with the KOIs, in combination with maybe interventions to drive this momentum. Aging could be a disease, and Professor Krömer and colleagues have developed the so-called hallmarks of aging that kind of quantify the mechanisms of us aging. And they also argue if you can positively affect one of these nowadays 12 hallmarks of aging, you could impact aging, you could impact the disease, which is so-called aging, in a positive way.
Yes.
And if you could potentially impact multiple of these hallmarks, does that mean we reverse aging, stop aging, treat aging? So you got that movement, you got amazing interventions that arguably have been around a bit longer, maybe under the term anti-aging, right? Also longevity nowadays, it's a new term that kind of recycles older ideas and terminologies.
Yeah.
So I think it's a perfect storm for all of these reasons. And like you said, coming out of the pandemic, people have realized that we have an immune system, that everything we eat, we do impacts the immune system. And sometimes it also may require you traveling to maybe access better care or new care, right?
Yeah.
Because during the pandemic, we also have seen that countries have handled this time period differently, and that different countries have strong healthcare systems, immune system of the countries. So there has been an awareness about like, hey, wow, how come Thailand has managed it so well? How come the case numbers or the side effects have been lower in certain countries? So that has opened the door also to that kind of global mindset.
Yeah.
And longevity medicine is a global phenomenon.
Yeah.
You have international brand leaders,
Yeah.
KOIs, and you have international interventions. You have doctors that with the audience interact internationally.
Yeah.
So I think it's also the global aspect of longevity, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. So you mentioned about research, but it's also the technology, right? The AI, the laboratory diagnostics, the knowledge that it's not just cholesterol, but maybe ApoB. It's not just HbA1c or fasting glucose, but maybe insulin. That's homocysteine, that's cortisol. All these things that contribute to that. That's knowledge about VO2 max and performance testing and things like that. And I think this is an exciting period to be in, and it's also global, right? The fact that we can actually listen to people in the US, in Europe, elsewhere, the experts and things like that. So the knowledge is being not filtered through, but flowing through into places like Singapore and Thailand, right? But to me, longevity, you mentioned about aging, is not just about living longer, right? There's no point in living longer if you're not healthy.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, it's about health span and not just lifespan. So what we are trying to achieve is not just health screening, and that's a major misconception about longevity with regards to that. They think that it's just a normal health screening. It's not. It's actually looking at you from the perspective of an individual, a person that's influenced by your environment, your family, your work, and everything else, your upbringing and your risk factors, genetic and others. And then looking at your current biomarkers, your genetics, and and other things, and putting all that information together to actually then kind of like make a personalized plan for you to live more healthier and hopefully longer, right? And happier, right? So for me, I think that's the ultimate goal for longevity, and it's about health span and not just about lifespan, because to me, I really don't want to live till 100, right? If I'm going to be sick for 30 years, right? But yeah, there is an increasing awareness in Singapore. There are many communities online that talk about longevity, a few hundred in each, right? And it's growing every day. So it's an exciting place to be in. Yeah.
So